Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is Friday, September the 28th, 2018. My name is James Bush. I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Tennessee. I am co owner of Bush Counseling Services. And I'm just going to talk to you a couple minutes on tonight on some of the current events that are happening in your wonderful world. So, you guys, I guess you've seen a lot about the different Kavanaugh stuff and the Supreme Court hearings and the things that are going along with that. And sexual assault and sexual violence has been a hot topic in the news lately or so, especially with the Me Too movement and the things of Bill Cosby and a lot of other stuff, Harvey Weinstein, the list goes on and on. With that being said, it's amazing because when you hear people, what's going on, Dre? How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. When you hear people discussing, they're talking about what's going on, Rick, sexual assault and sexual violence, and why did the victims wait so long to come forward and talk about the situation? And the matter of length of time, to me, sometimes that is irrelevant or anything like that, because there's a whole different idea we can talk about when it comes to trauma and what trauma does to the brain, the body, how it leaves sometimes a person in a state of paralysis. Also, what it does is sometimes people, they have some form of amnesia because of the event, and they are only reminded of the event when they are triggered by certain things or certain touches, moods, smells. What's going on, Charity? How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. So, the amount of time, length of time of when somebody reports an incident or anything like that, that's relevant to me at times. However, I want to go and I want to make another argument. And it's about communication. Good old communication. What I've noticed is that when I'm working with young people or so, we've come out of this generation where things were very, especially in the African American community, things were very strict. It was either my way or the highway. What I say goes. There won't be any back talk to me. You're not pretty much allowed to express yourself openly. It's that whatever you say, whatever I say goes, and that's it. And I don't want to hear anything else about it. Now, granted, when you take maybe a teenage kid or a kid that is in their preteens and they continue to hear that rhetoric and that message over and over again, time in after time, how often or how welcome do you think they're going to feel with sharing difficult and intimate secrets with that person? They're not. So what if that person and that young preteen or pre-adolescent has no one to talk to about certain issues such as sexual violence and sexual assault? I remember hearing the same claim or hearing the famed speech, if anybody touches you, you tell mommy and daddy. If anybody does anything, you tell mommy and daddy. Okay, great. But what if mom and dad are not creating that type of safe environment where you can have those type of open conversations? And what does that do to a young man or a young woman? Notice I said the young man as well, too. And I think that is where a lot of us are missing the boat on this subject, is that we're not creating the type of, what's going on, good old Cody? Cody, I'm going to tell you to put your website up so people can know who you are. And you too, Charity, you put yours up too, because you got a book coming out, I think. But anyway, as I digress, I think a lot of us in the African American community, we are not creating, and others, the safe environments to have the conversations needed so that these things don't have to go and be prolonged for time in and after time out. We don't have to hear about things that have happened over 20 years ago or 15 years ago or even last month, because the environment that is created within the household. What's good, Phil? Appreciate you, brother, for tuning in. We don't have to wait as long and for breaks for like that, because we've created a safe environment for people to communicate. We've created a safe environment for young men and women to come forward to their parents, their primary caregivers, their figures, their guardians, and so that they can have those conversations enough that they can go and fight on behalf of them through those powers that be. But because we've, been moved or molded into another different direction, we're not creating that atmosphere. We're not creating that safe space. So I'll tell you a little story. I had a young lady that is a part of one of my programs, and she's pretty much 18 years old. She's just about on the way out the house. And her dad, he is one of those, he loves his daughter. That's basically the thing I can say. He loves his daughter, loves her very dearly. So the thing is the daughter came home or was out a little bit late. This guy goes and leaves where he is, went, found her, and he had a GPS tracker on her as well too. And he went, found her, took her to where he had found her, and knocked on the door because she was over a guy's house when she really wasn't supposed to be. All right. So the whole point of it is, what I'm trying to say is that when she comes and she talks about the situation of what happened or so, she didn't feel safe. She didn't feel that there was an open line of communication between her and her dad or so. And I guess if she's sexually active, she's not going to tell her dad or anything like that because of the environment, because of the nonverbal communication, as well as the interaction that has been created between both of them. So, case in point, well, hold on. I'm going to get to you, Drea. So, case in point, now we have a situation where dad can't trust daughter, daughter definitely can't trust dad, and daughter is at that ripe old age, I mean around 18 to 19 years old, where she needs some form of guidance. She needs someone to pour and show her, some of the jackals and some of the things that are going on in life. But if she doesn't feel that connection with them, then what is she to do then? I mean, and that's unfortunate. And I think that a lot of this stuff is not necessarily of neglect. It's not necessarily that parents just don't care, but I think we've approached the situation in a wrong manner to the point where we've kind of pushed off our young people so that they don't feel safe and they don't feel comforted. Even if they do make mistakes, even if they do have missed the mark or so, we have put them in a situation where it's like, what do they turn to? So, and especially when it comes to shame. Imagine being a young lady or so and actually engaging yourself in some type of sexual activity, which is very raucous, where you were possibly drinking or smoking and something happened to you and you got taken advantage of. And you was afraid to come home because you knew that your dad was going to yell at you. You knew that your mom was going to yell at you or so. And who wants to hear that? Especially when you have been, again, sexually assaulted. And I think that is a lot of what is happening with our young people today. And so in a small recap is what I want to say is that we got to practice on how to communicate with our children. We got to practice it's not just my way or the highway, or it's not just about, listening to make a statement, but sometimes, or talking to make a statement, but practice listening so that we can understand them, so we can understand one another, so that that person can feel safe and they can feel comforted when they come to us with anything. Now, granted, there are consequences for whatever we do in life. There are consequences that different people have to face because of their actions. Cool. And you can make that known and apparent to your child. However, the bottom line is that we have to find ways to connect. And if you don't hear anything that I say out of this, maybe 4 or 5 minute video, it's connection. We've got to find ways to connect with our kids because our kids are connecting with so many other things and they are definitely harmful. They are connecting with alcohol, Xanax, marijuana, all types of pills, Oxy, Roxy, the whole gambit of them. They're connecting with a lot of things that go along that. And unfortunately, we like to blame all the other different vices, such as it's the media, it's TV, it's their friends. Well, how parents is us. It's just good old us. Practice listening. Hold up, I'm gonna give a couple comments. Hold on, just a couple shout outs. What's good? Thanks for watching, tuning in, Rob. Thanks for tuning in, Cornelia. Okay, it's not scrolling up. There we go. Drea said, I agree. One of the old saying is, what goes on in this house stays in this house. Yeah, I heard that many times too. What goes on stays in. And unfortunately, sometimes you got to look as well. It's that parents are dealing with their own mess. They're dealing with their own garbage or so. And they're not equipped to be able to talk to their children about certain issues or certain aspects. For instance, I've seen times when there's been parents who have been generationally raped. Grandma was raped one time. Granddaughter was raped one time. Then the great-granddaughter was raped one. And it just goes on. And unfortunately, it's that no one is talking about these situations. Or they've come out of that, maybe it's a religious background or idea that we don't talk about this. We don't put our business out there so nobody. And in my eyes, and understandably, I understand that you don't want your business all on the street. But again, who is that helping? And who's going to decide to break the cycle? At what point are they going to break the cycle? Will it be you? But anyway, thank you, Richard, for tuning in. Holly Johnson Brooks, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate that as well. So, for more on this topic and topics like this, visit us at bushcounselingservices.com. That is bushcounselingservices.com. You guys be blessed. Have a wonderful evening. What's going on, Vian? How you doing this evening?